Hi everyone, Ken Goldstein, Chief Revenue Officer of DP Solutions, and I can assure you that our AI speakers are actually real. Okay? Anyway, so we're going to have a great discussion today. At DP Solutions, being a managed IT service provider, we're kind of that generalist for our clients, helping them navigate technology, helping them understand how technology can affect their goals. So obviously, AI is a huge topic that everyone's talking about. As you raised your hands, you are all somewhere in the journey. But I know there's a lot of noise out there as to what is the best. Well, you're in the middle of a huge inflection in technology, huge. And it's really, I mean, we've had inflection and disruption throughout, the times, right, with technology. But this is a little different, and we acknowledge that because the velocity and the veracity of AI and changing so much, it creates a lot of questions and thoughts, and where am I, and how do I use it, right? So, and you go to a lot of workshops, and you leverage AI in certain ways, but do you know how it impacts your business? Is it actually reaching your goals? So we want to kind of frame out this conversation in terms of giving insight to different disciplines within technology, those who do software development, those who protect it, those who have applications and things that help you. So we want to kind of declutter the noise around it and help you kind of level set. So we really appreciate you all being here. And hopefully you learn something and you don't get annoyed by my jokes, because it has to be fun. Okay, so I talked a little bit about demystifying the noise, right? Like where are we? How do we use this stuff? And since it's changing so much, where do we jump on? So again, we'll kind of talk through that, and you'll see I do have my serious hat. So I am on LinkedIn. I will post every couple of weeks with serious thoughts. The business is serious, taken very seriously, but it should be fun. Okay, so from a DP solution standpoint, we're always focused on your business goals. And not to be cliche, understanding your business goals allows us to be able to manage your technology, prioritize initiatives, and focus on the things that are actually going to move you forward in your business. Leveraging AI in general is not necessarily going to get you there, right? It's how you use the tool. And AI is literally just a tool. Although it's changing quite a bit, it is really just a tool, just like your email, just like your platforms and things like that. So don't overthink it. Really, as leaders in this room, we want to understand our business goals and how we're going to apply it. But we also want to be aware, and it's very interesting, executives are the ones that are actually leading the charge. But you'll see in the next slide, I think it's the next slide, the actual usage that's going on. This is from McKinney, which is a well-regarded survey in the technical industry. 78% of companies are using technology around the world. Now, I mean AI around the world. 57% of the employees actually hide it from their employees that they're actually using it. I mean, that's a risk. So we need to be aware of that. 48% of employees have uploaded sensitive data to the cloud, right? That's scary. That's intellectual property. That's what potentially could make you different. And 50% of employees are using AI at work, get little or no training. So, again, business leaders, we need to be aware of these stats, and it's only going to increase. So the conversation with our panel is going to be really helpful. So where are you in your journey? You're all probably in different places, right? Some are using it more effectively than others. DP Solutions, we're leveraging automation and AI to help with tickets, right? Create better outcomes for our clients. But we've done a lot of work behind the scenes in order to get there. So really, it's a couple things. Like, I'm going to say a bad word, assessment. You really need to understand and assess, right? Because we're all like, well, we want to just use it. No, you have to assess and understand where you are in particular. But we do want to identify what are the quick wins that are going to make a difference right off the bat. That can be done, having workflows and conversations and things like that. We take the crawl, walk, run approach. Meaning, like, let's get those quick wins and understand better how we can use the technology, and then start applying it where it's going to be even more effective, maybe make it more predictive, right, in your business, getting all the data. And then security, obviously, we're going to be talking security today. what does that mean? What does security actually mean with AI, and where is your risk? So, great panelists. Want to introduce Laura Gretz. Let's pronounce that correctly.
Yep,
Incite Automation. She's going to run you through some demos. We got James Wellborn. Yep. From Microsoft, from Sherweb. He's wearing a Microsoft all over. They charge him 5% more for it, and so Microsoft. Jason Price. The price is right, no doubt about it. From Kaseya, he'll talk through some security. Peter Conway, good partner of ours at NetWorks. So I'm going to turn it over to, I guess, Laura. You're first. Who's going to do a demo with you.
All right, I'm going to unplug this. All right, that was easy. Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Laura Gretz. I am the Chief Technology Officer at Incite Automation. We are a low-code software development and consulting firm. And really what that means is we help businesses automate their repetitive processes and their busy work. We help build systems for many, many different types of industries that help their operations run faster, run smoother, because they are systems that actually scale as they grow. Now, my role in particular as CTO, I have to keep my finger on the pulse for all new technology. What should we start using for our clients, even internally? What's something we should keep our eye on but maybe isn't there yet? And what is maybe overhyped that we want to skip? And so obviously if you've researched anything, you're here for a reason. You open up LinkedIn, you are seeing AI everywhere. Now for us at Incite, it's been actually really beneficial that it's become such a buzzword, because we've been working in the AI suite since at least 2018, working on AI and automation. And so, as Ken said, where do we get started? And everyone's at a different place, but I think the biggest thing that comes to mind when we think about AI is an agent chatbot experience. We go to chatgpt.com, we go to claude.ai, maybe we log in, maybe we have a premium subscription, and we start using it. It helps us write our emails, it helps us answer questions, maybe we're uploading documents, generating content, and it's really beneficial for me as an individual. And it's made my life go much quicker, I feel more efficient at work, I have this great personal assistant. But as business owners and business executives, we're wondering, how do I actually use this for my business? And that's where it's really important to start thinking about personal AI versus enterprise AI. And that's most of what I'll talk about today, along with some quick wins. So personal AI is exactly what I was just talking about before. You have a subscription, maybe you're just signed in and you're using an agent that's really helping you improve your day-to-day tasks. But for enterprise AI, this is AI that's actually connected to your systems. It's trained on your data. It's understanding your workflows and your standard operating procedures so that the entire organization can use this AI. And so for this in particular, we want to start thinking about what's really important is where our data lives. And that's, I think, a part that a lot of people skip when they just want to start using AI and get value out of it. There is absolutely value day one, but for you all in this room, we want to start thinking about, where does my data live? Does it live in a spreadsheet? Do I use a CRM like Salesforce, Monday.com, Dynamics? Do I use Google Sheets? Where is all my information that I want to start pulling data from? So that's sort of step one as you go. But the other steps are, for a lot of you, most likely already accessible to you. Can I have a show of hands for who's on Microsoft or Office 365 here?
Woo!
Perfect. That's what I was expecting. That goes really well for my demo today. There are a lot of other tools. If you did not raise your hand, you're on G Suite, Google, anything else like that, there are other tools. I'll kind of touch on them as I go, but focusing on the Microsoft suite. These are tools you can go to the URLs that I'm showing on my browser right here and start accessing it today. This is what's accessible to you inside of your organization. So I'm going to start with my favorite tool. I'm biased towards it. We've used it for forever, and it's called Power Automate. This is a workflow automation tool where I start with a trigger, something happens, an action has taken place, and then I can do many different actions after that. So for example, for myself, I receive a lot of client files in my inbox, and I'm super lazy. I don't feel like saving them to my OneDrive. I don't feel like putting them in a place, so then I just have to use the Outlook search, which I'm sure everyone loves to use here. And so what I want to do is I would love if my files automatically were added to my OneDrive. So within Power Automate, I can start with a prompt. When I receive an email, add, oh, let me spell email right, add attachment to OneDrive. And when I do this, it's taking my natural language query and it's translating it into an actual Power Automate flow. I'll go ahead and keep and continue. And so what you can see here is it's actually connected, again, to my tenant, to Incite Automation, and I can go forward and create this flow. So you'll see the trigger in just a moment that when a new email arrives, it's even automatically checking to make sure it's only emails with attachments, and I can choose exactly where I want this to go in OneDrive. Now, again, as we think about personal AI and enterprise AI, this is a great example for myself. It's making my life easier, it's quicker, but how can we apply this to businesses? So one use case that we use often is, and build often, is invoice processing, document processing. You have one person at your organization, maybe it's a team that is receiving invoices. Maybe you have a shared mailbox, ap@yourorganization.com, invoices@yourorganization.com, and they're going through receiving, copying the file, putting it where it needs to go, reading all the information, copying the data out, maybe even putting it into your finance system, emailing people for approval, and it's a lengthy process. And so we can translate this flow to say, when a new email arrives at one of my shared mailboxes, grab the attached file. And there's another great feature inside of Power Automate called AI Builder. And this is actually what allows us to train the platform on your documents to say, this is what our invoices typically look like. And this is how we can pull out information. So it can pull out the vendor number, the customer number, the PO. It's loading, I promise it's there. The PO information. And we can put that wherever the invoices need to be stored. And so not only does a workflow like this save us time, we can free up that person to do a ton of other work, but it could also save on licensing fees. So if you have a ton of people that need to enter data into your financial system and you have to pay for a license for them, you could think about if we are able to automate pulling all of the details out, sending for approval, that's another action in Power Automate, then we can also automatically potentially upload to the financial system. So there's a lot of easy wins that we have in just this one workflow. And Power Automate in general is in the Microsoft suite, but has a ton of different connectors. I'm just going to scroll through so you can get an idea of all the different platforms you can connect to. So you may not be using a lot of things in the Microsoft suite. Maybe you use Adobe Sign, DocuSign, again, Salesforce. All of those connectors exist here for you to start pooling different data points into one place.
And Laura, this is with the licensing they probably have. It's available.
Correct, yes. So there are, the actions inside the Microsoft suite are all covered under just Power Automate free. You may need your admin to enable it, but if you do want to go above and beyond and connect to some of these, you see this little tiny diamond here. There is a license called Power Automate Premium, which is $15 per user per month. And again, the best part is it's not every single person that interacts with the workflow, it's whoever owns it uses this license. So typically for organizations, we find that only 1 or 2 people need this $15 license.
And somebody with the premium license will stop other producer without the premium license?
It depends on how they're using it. If it's through a button and their credentials aren't signed in, so it's running through this service account, then you can, yes. Awesome. All right, moving on to our next tool that, again, you can start using. We'll talk about the pricing of this as well in what are called credits. Again, a lot of you, most of you are in Microsoft. Maybe you even have a Windows computer. You probably see this little Copilot icon everywhere. Maybe too many places, which makes it a bit difficult for us to talk when Microsoft reuses the same terms. So Copilot can be a personal assistant. You can buy a premium subscription and use it. It's already connected to your organization's data, and that's excellent. But again, when we think about enterprise, Microsoft has this tool called Copilot Studio. And what this allows us to do is actually connect it to our documents, to our data, to our SharePoint lists. And so this example of what we've built is we have excellent documentation at Incite. Our COO has put together great standard operating procedures. Everything we need to do is in a guide. Now, for us as employees, we're a little lazy, and we're always messaging her asking, well, how do I do this? And what do I do for this? And so to save time, I can train this Copilot agent on all of these different documents and easily ask it, how do I run invoices? And what you can see on the screen is in this test version, it's actually going through all of the different sources that I've provided it. I can also choose to connect this to the internet. So if I want my team to be able to get information from different sources outside of what I've provided it, you can set that up as well. You can see it's going through my information. Now it's going through my different documents here, determining where to pull the information from. Now with the response, the best part about what gets pulled out is it's actually going to give me all of the sources as to where it came from. So again, as a user, I can keep asking questions to this Copilot agent, or I can see these different sources and go directly to that document. I no longer have to search SharePoint, my OneDrive, message my CEO. I can get all of this info straight from here. Not only does Copilot Studio allow you to ask questions, get answers, train it on your information, but you can also kick off workflows from this Copilot Studio agent. And so one of the things we've set up, and as anyone in sales, is we write lots of contracts for our clients. And so prior to using Copilot Studio, I would have to go enter my opportunity, enter my potential customer, copy and paste information into my document. They all generally look the same besides, some verbiage and pricing, and copy and paste it, PDF it, send it out. And so what we're able to do is actually associate Power Automate flows in Copilot Studio. So I'm able to say, create an advisory statement of work. Now again, because it's connected to my data in our CRM, it's asking me, what's your opportunity name? And I'm going to say it's a Copilot advisory. And so from here, you'll watch it switch in just a second. It recognizes the workflow that it needs to go to. I've given it plain text instructions for how to use this. And what it's going to return is a link directly to my document. Again, the more connected your systems are, the easier it is for AI to give you these types of responses. Because I have it trained on my data, it even knows where to go. We have a site per client. And so you can see I just had this document generated few seconds ago with all the information, again, branded to Incite, and all I need to do is PDF and send it out. Maybe I'll even use Power Automate to be able to send it out, connected to Sign Now, DocuSign, to have that automatically move forward as well. And so Copilot Studio is a really, really strong tool. The last newest feature of Copilot Studio I'll show off, and I'm not going to click test because it is incredibly slow, is called computer use. And if you've heard anything new about Copilot or Claude Cowork, it essentially takes control of your screen. It clicks on different areas of a website because you may be using systems that we aren't able to automatically connect to. You may have to go to government websites that you can't pull data from. And so the way we bridge the gap is with this new feature called computer use. And so this allows us to put in plain text instructions and be able to actually get information from websites. It stands up its own computer. It clicks on the edge icon you can see in these instructions here. It goes to the URL I want it to go to, enters the information I provide it in different parameters, and gives me out the information. And so again, I mentioned it'll take up probably 5 more minutes of my presentation, so I'm going to skip it. But the benefit to using this is, again, although as we watch, this came out about 2 weeks ago, so I imagine it will get much quicker. But having this run in the background, it's not taking control of my computer. I don't need to set up another VPN or virtual network or anything like that to be able to start using it. It runs in the background. And so that frees up my time incredibly to do what I actually want to focus on as a business. And so these two tools, Power Automate and Copilot Studio, are the top two I would recommend for anyone that's in the Microsoft suite. Again, huge raise of hands here. Just start looking at when you go home, thinking about where your data lives, how I might be able to pull, what I want to know from my data. And that's what can power your enterprise AI. And that's my presentation.
Great. Next we'll have Peter Conway.
Good morning, everybody. Visiting from New York, and I got down here early, got to explore your area. Such a cool area, so much going on here, and this room. My God, the power, the business power that's sitting here today. I'm just awed, so impressed. We saw some really amazing tools, and I'm going to talk about that. Typing in. Am I going to do this?
A hero for you.
Is that, okay, we'll get to that in a moment. I'm going to try to, well, let me step back. Peter Conway, Net at Work. We're a full-service technology business solution provider and consulting firm that DP has chosen to partner with when any of you might need to expand or replace your current business systems, your accounting, finance, ERP, manufacturing. We do the full gamut, CRM, HR, et cetera. I started with technology in 1983. I was 10 at the time. Not really. But as you can imagine, I've seen tremendous changes. I mean, I remember when our first fax machine was a novelty. Who even uses a fax? Anybody still have a fax machine? I know what a fax machine is. I mean, there's some schools and agencies where you can only send them a fax. They don't allow email and so forth. But I wanted to kind of create a level set of where AI is today for small businesses, mid-sized businesses. I talk to businesses all the time, and a week ago I attended an all-day conference where I heard from lawyers, accountants, insurance brokers, business brokers, technologists, what's really going on in the AI world today compared to what you read in the press or LinkedIn. You see all these fabulous things happening, companies laying off 4,000 employees. It all can be a little scary, and I'd like to give you a little reset on that from what I heard from real people who are dealing with this every day. That 78 or 58%, 78%, really only like 10% of those 78% are really seeing actual ROI from AI today. Why is that? AI, it's still in a very much of an early stage. We're well into it, but frankly, AI started in 1956. Someone came up with that name, artificial intelligence. It struck me as odd. Artificial intelligence really is made by humans, not by nature, so it seems pretty natural to me, but it's a thing that's been evolving. It really hit its stride in 2016 when OpenAI started, and they started in earnest building it. You jumped on the bandwagon very soon, in 2018. I jumped on the bandwagon in 2023 and been using AI extensively since then. But today, as most of you people have figured out, AI is here to stay. People are using it, even if you're not using it personally, people are using it in your business, and sometimes insecurely in what we call shadow AI. You need to get that under control, and DP will help you with that. The other thing is that in the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years, it's going to change how you do business. You need to reimagine how your business is going to operate with these new tools. And it's going to be a great ride. It's happening a lot faster, but it's something that's really wonderful. I'd like to, if you're concerned that you're getting into it too late, we're still really at early stages. These AI tools are advancing, and they're getting better and better. You can do more useful things with them, but they still need a lot of what I call HI, human intelligence. She gave that AI a human prompt. If she was doing it for a client, that human prompt would have about 100 more words. Like, if this invoice is this, don't do that. Because AI will, I mean, yesterday I was starting to write a LinkedIn post on how I was going to be at Jams, and they said, oh, Jams is right in the center of town. No, it's not. It's not in the center of town. It's off in the suburbs or out. And AI makes things up. It can change things. It can give information. It can send things out to clients that it's for the wrong client. You know, you have ABC carpet and you have ABC plumbing, and the ABC carpet proposal goes to plumbing, and what the hell is this? So it needs a lot of sensitive information. Look at me, still using paper. How about that? Sensitive data, you touched on that. Anybody, any of your employees are using personal free AI tools? ChatGPT? Yes, tell me about that.
Well, to prevent that from happening, we added the agent for every employee. So everybody has one, so use that. So they have OpenAI and some have Claude. So everybody in my office has an agent that they use. So they don't go wandering into anything free.
Right, right. So you want to be using paid, free versions of AI. Nothing's free, let's face it, nothing is free. They're dangerous. Funny story, at this event, there was a woman whose uncle owned a business, and he was about to sell the business, but she heard that the uncle was having an affair with a woman. She wrote up the whole details of the affair. She put it into ChatGPT to get advice, and a week later, someone contacted her, blackmailing her about this, because he was going to underscore. This is a true story. He was going to undo the acquisition because he found this dirt that she put into AI, and it can happen. There's so many examples like that. You as managers, you might, and a lot of the ideas for AI, how it can be used, will come from your employees up from the lower part of the organization, but you need to be managing it. You need to be telling your people what they should be doing and what they should not be doing with AI. So it's really important to get educated. There's so many free tools. There's so many places that you can learn AI. DP will help you. They're really here to guide you on your journey and bring in the appropriate resource. You're going to hear from two other really important resources, and along with Laura, of how you can use it. That all look great. I don't think I'm going to go home and try it. Well, I do know that the latest version of ChatGPT made building agents a lot easier. Mm-hmm. So the other thing is start gradually. Find a business case. Often recommended put your trials in a sandbox, and DP can set that up for you where you're doing things, just testing it out in a protected environment, and that way you can not do any real damage. So to kind of give you a different picture on this, I created a little story. Pretend you're Millie's Muffin Bakery, and you're making the best muffins in the world, and all of a sudden you realize you can sell muffins all over the country if you buy a semi-truck and get it rolling. Are you just going to go out, buy a semi, give it to some kid to drive, and take off? No, you're not. You're going to investigate, learn what truck is best, how you're going to pay for it, how you're going to finance it. Then you're going to find all your routes. What do you need? Where does it need to go? You're going to find a driver. He's got to be CDL licensed. He's already trained before you get him behind the wheel. You're not going to let a kid on his learning permit get into that vehicle. And that's what some people are with AI today. We also have roads, very established GPS system, road signs, police. All that infrastructure is in place to make sure this truck can take a safe journey and deliver your muffins correctly. AI, out of the box, doesn't have that. You've got to put it in place. Correct, Laura? Mm-hmm. And you might end up with this. Off the road, off the rails, not good. So rely on DP. They'll bring you resources to help you on your AI journey, and best of luck. Thank you.
Working? Oh yeah, there you go, there you go. Guys, I called myself. I'm not cool. You're welcome. So when we were coming to talk about AI today, it was really that. It was like, hey, James, come up, talk about AI, talk about Copilot a little bit. They gave me this fancy sweater, and here I am. I said, I have to talk about this wild thing in 10 to 15 minutes is kind of the idea. Ambitious at best. And I was kind of like just pondering off and wondering how the heck I'm going to get through this. Very comforted to see a lot of you already leveraging AI. So you're already in the space, you're using Microsoft, so good on you, you get it. But for me today, it's really to talk about some of the reasons why Microsoft is the right fit for business. There's a lot of different AIs out there.
Thanks, sir.
Hundreds and hundreds of models, from large to small, to free, to premium and paid. Anyone can slap an enterprise on their name and say they're a secure product. That's not always the case. When it comes to Microsoft, it really is built on security. This is how Microsoft came to market with Copilot. It was not this AI model, and then how do we bolt on security? It was from inception. This thing has to be secure before we get into the productivity side. So just to reassure you, Microsoft is on the right path. You're on the right path, using a tool that really is built for work. If I go back to all the different models that exist out there, there are so many, and noise was the word we've heard once or twice out here today. There's so many. The good thing about Microsoft and the way we're positioning ourselves, and I say ourselves, I'm not actually part of Microsoft, but the way that it's being positioned is that you can have all your model choice, and each model will excel at a different thing, whether it's feeding your information, the overlords or what have you, but each model has their own strengths, weakness, analysis, copywriting, etc. Microsoft is now positioning itself as the UI for AI. They aren't building models. They aren't trying to compete with a ChatGPT or a Claude, for instance. These things, to your point earlier, they evolve so quickly. What you know about AI a month ago is different than what AI really is today, and different again next month. So if you're like me or any of us up here, we try and stay as informed and plugged in and connected as we can. We're always a week behind with all the bots and with all the summaries we can get fed to us daily in whatever language and tone or rhyme that you like. We're always a day behind. Microsoft is a great way to standardize and say, this is the interface I'm going to use, and plug into whichever tool is going to best serve the objective at hand. To your point, you were mentioning you have licenses for your users on Claude and OpenAI. Microsoft also has partnered with both of these LLMs, both of these models. So it's not, this is the one way. Microsoft is really creating a landscape for it to be the UI, and then you choose your own adventure as we go through. Maybe really quickly also, if you go back to see this guy over here. So we're at Sherweb. So essentially we get the partner, much like Net at Work, Midsize, et cetera. We get the partner with DP Solutions, and essentially we get to distribute Microsoft through the channel here. Really, really simple, okay? So if there is a scenario that exceeds in some way, shape, or form what DP is currently offering, we'll get to jump in. Our team of services, our team of experts internally, as well as Microsoft. Again, we are, I think, number 2 or 3 in the US and number 1 in Canada in terms of Microsoft distribution. So we know a thing or two about a thing or two. Just to say, rest assured, we can help anywhere along that journey. It is really, it's going to be unique to every single person in this room. Lean on BP. They have the resources, and we'll gladly step in and help make sense of this ever-changing road that we're all just trying to figure out. All right, back at it. I'm probably already way over what else was in there. So these are the 5 reasons. So again, I only had X amount of time. There are 5 things I wanted to get through. Work IQ, agents, the UI for AI, agents and business process, and we started to think scale, and then ultimately, sorry about that, ultimately getting into the security and the governance. How do we go about this safely? Otherwise said. That story with like putting info on her husband sounds awful, but far too real. Yeah, there's way too many examples of these, and it's too early to get into bad news. But these things are absolutely out there. All right, so Laura was talking perfectly about, and I say perfectly because it's all Microsoft. She gets it. But she was mentioning that really the IQ, or the context behind the data, or the data that you're leveraging within your models, is the difference between something working for you or something wasting your time. Right? If you think back kind of 3 years when AI first came out into this commercial context, help me reply to this email. You copy and paste the send from your customer, throw it into ChatGPT, your model of choice at the time, and then you're spending 15 minutes massaging this output. You're like, did that really help me, or am I just 15 minutes behind trying to get this thing to sound like me even a little bit? Right, so Work IQ is the answer to that. What Microsoft has done here is it says, well, not only am I going to look at the initial, the email, the context of that particular message, but I'm going to look through the entire context of the thread. This can be years, this can be whatever, however deep that conversation has gone. This can be within meetings where they came up in transcripts. This can be within files or customer quotes, etc. Anything like that is available in your Microsoft environment can now be pulled, surfaced, and referenced. So that back and forth massaging emails for 20 minutes to save yourself 5, those days are gone. Work IQ is the answer to that. A really cool way to think of it, or my favorite analogy I've heard on this is if we think of having all your data within Microsoft as being MapQuest, or from MapQuest, right? Go ask it for directions, you print out this paper, you're driving, you're trying to grab a paper and stay on the road, right? And it did good, and in its day it was great. It was, I need to get from Montreal, where I'm from, up here. Well, here are the roads I need to take, I need to do a left turn, exit on this highway, I make my way here. So Work IQ, just to draw the parallel, is now this is Google Maps, this is Waze. This is not only how do I get there, what are the directions and the steps, but where are the road closures? And where are their detours, where are their delays? How can I get there in the most effective and the most efficient way possible? Again, Work IQ is that. So definitely a lot of really good tools out there, having the context and the data behind what you're trying to accomplish, the outcome that's required for your business. That's where Microsoft alone already takes a leg up because it's entrenched in what we do already. All your spreadsheets, all your emails, your meetings, this is all in a single environment. Why not leverage everything you have access to and every decision and every outcome you're moving towards?
Yep.
Work IQ, folks. The next one is in terms of agentic work. So we saw Laura again, give some examples of agents, of workflows, of automation. How do we get from A to B quicker? And I'll touch on that in 2 ways. The first one here is going to be on a personal context. I, James, am not an Excel expert. I don't know if there's any in the room, any Excel aficionados, right? Wine getting pointed at and volunteer, right? So this is not a tool I must love. It's kind of a necessity, you know, something that we just have to kind of go through. We can think of Microsoft agents being built in like an Excel agent or a PowerPoint agent, where you can just say, hey, build me dashboards, build me tables, help me to understand, analyze this data, identify trends, plot trajectories. We can do all of this just by simple natural language, similar to what Lara put on a little bit earlier. In my role, so I get to support Microsoft sales across Canada as kind of my region. But I get to see vast amounts of data, of licensing, of customers, sizing, of expiry dates and promotions, and I have all of this. And generally what I'll do, or what I used to do, was I have to go through and I look at a partner, then I have to click through the customer, and I have to go down really granularly. It takes me 30 minutes to go and pull out a report that nowadays I can get done in 3 or 4 minutes. I simply plop in my entire customer data, really all customer data. My computer is very security locked, don't try anything. But I just plop that in, and then I just tell Copilot and Excel, hey, help me identify trends. What if we were to sell more Copilot into this customer? What would that look like from a revenue standpoint for our partners? What would that look like even from a productivity gain for customers? Right? Once I have that context, I have that data, I have those stats from Microsoft's Work Trend Index, I have all the stats on what AI can really do for businesses. So I take that, marry it with the data, with the insights that I have from my organizational data, and now I have these wonderful reports that can show up on most meetings and wow people. But look at the depth, look at the preparation. Meanwhile, I click this thing, I let it run, I go grab a coffee, I come back, and here I am as a smart guy. Right? So let's all lean into that. But these agents are here. There are about 15 that Microsoft has pre-built. These are really out of the box. You just start leveraging them. But that's what the road to AI, it can be daunting. Because there's so many choices, there's so much noise, and do I zig or do I zag? There's really too much to really comprehend our human brains. Start with what's easy. Start with low-hanging fruit, as they say, those quick wins. These are agents, there's no dev time. There's no complexity to it to start leveraging. Do have a training plan in mind for your team, support your team. Don't just throw them a tool and say, well, here's a boat, go make it somewhere fun, but really get in there, show them how to navigate the seas. I touched on this a little bit earlier here, and it is multimodal. It is not saying, hey, standardize on Copilot because it's the best. It is standardized on Copilot because it's the interface that we're all familiar with. It's the interface and the positioning of Microsoft, and the goal of Microsoft long term is to stay as that tool of choice, not the model. You like OpenAI and ChatGPT, by all means. You want the latest and greatest in ChatGPT 5.5? Well, come on down. Microsoft gets these updates normally 30 days after any of these models release, and more partnerships are in line for Microsoft. But
So in that situation, you're not paying a license for Anthropic or OpenAI. So do you pay the Copilot and then pay? So that has a guarantee of the
service boundary.
That's right.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So over here was paying for OpenAI, paying for Anthropic, but you said it before. I'm like, yes, I got one. When you're talking about that earlier, you can't absolutely. But now you're managing two different tool sets and reading the fine print of their contracts that were buried down about what's being or not being done with your data. Microsoft has all that visibly in the website. If you go into your Copilot, even on the free version, you'll see Enterprise Data Protection. Click on that. It's right in your face. You can go and read all the fine print. Microsoft has nothing to hide. And yes, absolutely, you'll benefit from both of these, the most latest models, as well as Copilot being built into your Excel, your PowerPoint, your Word, your Teams, your Planner, BI, Automate. Like, it is across the entire suite. So again, we say we want to simplify AI, or Copilot being the simplified way to go about AI. It is single UI. Where do you need to leverage the tool? And I'll get back to your question. You mentioned earlier, there's too many Copilots, and it's true, there are. It's kind of obscene. What happens though is that there is a Copilot that is specialized. So you think of a Copilot in Excel, it is there to understand data. So you think of a Copilot in Word, it is there to understand writing styles, right? So there are many Copilots, but ultimately they're all trained for their specific use. I'm an employee, you're an employee. Your role is different than mine. You're a Copilot, I'm a Copilot, different roles, baggage and knowledge. Yeah, so go ahead.
We're just following up on, so with that security being guaranteed, does the UI, or that prevented something like what happened to Pocket OS with Cloud? Like Pocket OS got its database wiped with all three backups. So when I'm connecting identities to SharePoint, my first thought was a crash rate, my SharePoint. Some rule-based situation.
Yeah, well, I think Microsoft so they're a little bit slower, and that's part of where that 30-day kind of delay to Microsoft launching any of these like models. They do all their checks. They need to go through retention, so there's different rules and different features within licenses. Also, don't say features too much, but there's features within licenses that can help you to prevent, safeguard, hold, lock down data to mitigate any of these risks. It's AI, 2026, kind of a wild time for us all to be here. Stuff happens really quick, so there's no silver bullet. The best we can do is be as prepared as possible, and maybe even work with some cool friends, have some responsible backups.
Think of your backups that they don't have access to.
Backups offset, right? 3, 2, 1, or 3, 2, 3, what have you. But yeah, definitely have the right precautions. And again, I'm far from kind of a full business expert here, but work with GP that at work, like collectively. We get to do some really cool stuff and keep you out of the headlines.
So does that mean like all of us that are used to the little Copilot button when we open Word or open Excel or whatever it is, that is not secure when you have a Copilot, when you have a Microsoft suite in your office that you're paying licenses for? Is that Copilot button secure, or is it? So any information that goes into that is not being seen by anyone outside of my organization?
No one at all, not Satya Nadella himself. There's no eyes on that whatsoever. That really is your data, much like anything that's in Excel today. No one has access to that, and Copilot follows those same principles.
So how is that different? Like, what's the difference between that button and Copilot Studio? It's like, how does that, I guess Copilot to me is Copilot, so I was told it was all secure, it's all there, but now this seems like you're saying there's different security levels depending on what license you have.
So, no, and I do apologize for the confusion there. So Copilot is secure. Whether on the paid or the free version, your data remains your data.
Okay.
There are additional safeguards. Okay, so an example here, if I think of home security, or sorry, again, it's early, I try to be negative, but just painting pictures. 2021, someone wanted to break into your home, God forbid. Okay, it's awful, and I couldn't come up with anything better right now. 2021, you want to go on vacation, you lock your doors, you lock your windows, and leave the house. Someone were to try and get in, well, they know they have to break a window, they have to pick your lock, they have to get into your home, and then they're going to spend X amount of time rummaging through your stuff to find the goods, so to speak. When there's a Copilot in the fold, now there's no longer, like they self, they either break that window or break that door, they have to get in. But once they're in, well, now it's just, we'll bring the goods to their front door. So your Copilot can do that, like AI expedites. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we are triple locking our doors, validating identity. Is James in Montreal accessing what type of data? James can come in. If James is on the road and he was in Maryland and then he's in Montreal 10 minutes later trying to access that same file, that's kind of weird. So, right? Something's a little fishy.
So that's
here.
your
Let's shut
authenticator.
down.
That's your Microsoft Authenticator that's confirming that before you use that from your VPN that it's all secure.
It says, oh yeah, this could actually be James. Let's let him in. So that's when you see there's different levels of security. It's more around the identity, around the devices, around the data protections, backups, etc. But Copilot itself isn't dangerous. It can expedite, if there was a hack or a compromised identity, it would expedite that process. And then you could have things like MFA as kind of a level 1, conditional access, noticing risky sign-ins, atypical travel, well, that's another level. So there are different levels and different ways, and again, given your risk tolerance for your business, there are tools to mitigate any and all of these risks. And as we say AI readiness or the assessment, it is, well, where are you on that journey? You want to make sure this road to AI is an uneventful one for you.
So that's there. It's clicking the Copilot button in Word. It's the same as working on a document.
It's your personal assistant. It has the same access that you have access to.
So if you expand that analogy a little bit more, so you may have a family who's not breaking in, we have a nice family, right? They may have the key to get in.
Right.
So your Microsoft tenant is like your house in that regard. You may not want the kids going in your drawer.
Right.
So it's really important that this is where your IT provider or admin would help you kind of set the controls around those you allow in the house. So that's important too, because for example, you don't want necessarily any employee to get into an HR file or an accounting file, right?
Right.
While they're allowed in the house, they're not allowed in that drawer.
Right.
So that's where, just to make that distinction.
Yeah. So well said.
Right, Ron?
Got it. But that's if you were in Explorer or whatever, if you were using files and you had to give access and permission, then the Copilot's not going to let anybody into that file that doesn't already have access to it.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, that's where the assessment comes in, just to make sure
Got
that
it.
those controls are.
Okay. And I'll touch on one or two more controls in a moment. So kind of just building on that, even if we draw the parallel here from a security standpoint, who has access to what? Getting, what do we're robbery documents? That's kind of crazy for this time of day. But if we go back to more on the positive side, well, how much more can we accomplish? How much more can I put in my bag and get done today via my personal assistant that is Copilot? Well, now how do we scale that out, right? And again, this could be I'm so long-winded, I'm so sorry. It could be as simple as using pre-built agents that are already there, or it could be something that's available through partners or systems that you're already leveraging. So building up custom integrations, absolutely entirely doable. Studio, Automate, Foundry, Fabric, etc. You can pull in data from everywhere. Leveraging tools that already exist, your speed to market, your speed to outcome. Now it's shorter, there's no dev cycles. This is all done. You can still curtail, you can still confine and control many of these tools. These are all available to you, again, right out of the box. So the road to AI can be ziggy and zaggy. There's also some pretty straight lines you can draw for quick wins and get there faster. And the last one, we touched a bunch on it here, is around the security concerns. So my Copilot cannot access anything that I cannot access. Good and bad. Bad is because years ago, probably if you were to share a file with more than one person, you would just say, share with the organization. I'm not going to share it with everyone one by one and only those who need. I'm just going to say, instead of asking me 5 times, and I did this with our sales team, 7 years ago. Is I would deliver a training and say, James, that was cool. Can I get this back? And I'm like, yes. Here you go, Jacob, and here you go, Nick. And I give it to the one by one. By the fourth person, I'm like, just share with everyone. Stop asking me all the time, right? So that's where data can solely and easily get out of control. Understanding who has access to what, which employees, maybe they were in HR and now they're in sales. Well, why do I still have access to data? Right? Like, kick me out of those files and those folders, those sites, if you will. But that all has to be taken into account. So again, we think assessment, it is a scary word. It's not very fun. One of the dentists, right? It's not what we like, but it does keep us safe. We get to choose some more. So well worth the exercise.
With DP Solutions in terms of providing tools that help them to identify everything that's on your network, protect your network, respond to any sort of threats or anything that's detected, and be able to recover if need be. So a bunch of different tools and able to help you guys out at the end of the day. So when it comes to your IT security, where are you focused, right? And so this question came as I was driving one day. And I probably shouldn't be taking pictures of myself while I'm driving, but I was driving. And I said, when you're driving, where should you be looking? Anybody want to just throw some answers? Like, where should you be focused on? The road. Of course, the road. Like, what part of the road?
Further down the road.
Further down the road? Are you supposed to be looking in the back?
Yes.
Okay. That was a trick one. You smart. She's good. Right, you're supposed to be looking everywhere, right? And there's so much different distractions that you're dealing with. Maybe trying to change the radio, the baby's in the back crying, this and the other. And I just didn't know what was the most important thing. So I just asked ChatGPT where I should be looking. And the response was far ahead, not just the car in front of you, right? So 12 to 15 seconds ahead or a quarter mile down the road. You should be constantly scanning, right? Always seeing everything that's around. Look for your escape routes, right? I always do that. My fiance thinks I'm crazy, but I'm like, if I need to just jam left, jam right, this, that, the other, there's the hole right there, right? And maybe that's my own like speed racer mindset, but I do that. And then, looking at traffic flow, right? So there's different things that you're looking at. And so when I compare it to like the IT space and your IT landscape, right? I compare it to like thinking about cybersecurity, right? For the last 30 years, we're probably all well versed on what cybersecurity is, right? If I was to say what's cybersecurity, what would you say?
Keeping your IT system safe.
Not what I wanted, but almost, right? Right? So we're all familiar with like firewalls and antivirus and network security and even physical security, right? Making sure that there's doors there's locks on the doors and there's locks on file cabinets, things of that nature. But if we were to go to like another layer deeper, I want people to think about cyber resilience, right? So cyber resilience is like more so looking kind of further ahead, not in the car, not the rearview mirror. And can anybody tell me what cyber resilience is? Almost. You are great. You got an imaginary gift card, all right? Right after this, right? So cyber resilience is the ability to get back to your normal operating procedures as quickly as possible, right? Because it's not about like, am I going to get attacked or when do I get attacked? I'm sorry, if I get attacked, but when, right? It's going to happen. It's inevitable. You can have the best security company, but they're going to tell you, hey, we need you to make sure you're doing this, make sure you're doing that. But you could have one employee that causes something to happen and you're compromised, right? And so it's about being resilient and being able to snap back as quickly as possible. So that's looking at much deeper things, right? It's looking at your technology redundancy, your executive and leadership buy-in, right? Is the CEO on board, right? Is he also exhibiting the same behaviors that he's expecting the person in the mailroom? Backup recovery, supply chain, right? Incident response planning, business continuity planning. Those are all parts of making sure that you are resilient and you can get back to running as quickly as possible. So we are under attack. It's not one specific vertical. It could be healthcare, it could be education, government and municipalities, right? We're all seeing the effects of nefarious behavior out there, right? Where people are trying to, either hack, do ransomwares, compromise data, all of those things. And so just like we went from cybersecurity to more so being focused on cyber resilience, once again, looking ahead, a quarter mile down the road, what are the things that we should be looking at? I'm going to skip through this one, right? And so their attack landscapes are constantly evolving. And so we spoke about all the great things with AI today, and I learned so much, but we still have to remember that AI is also another attack vector, right? And so we need to be cognizant of that. We need to make sure we're doing the right things to make sure that we can minimize or eliminate the potential threats that may exist. When we look at AI-powered attacks, right, over the last couple of years, automatic attacks surged to about 36,000 scans per second. There's been a 500% increase in stolen credentials on the dark web. A lot of that is driven by AI-powered attacks. Anybody familiar with deepfake technology? Right? So there's deepfake for voices, right? So somebody can call you, right, and they can imitate the voice of a loved one, a boss, FBI agent, and you can have a conversation with them and you'd be none the wiser that it was an AI-driven attack. Anybody heard of that? When I call my bank now, they don't ask me any questions anymore. Hey, Mr. Price. Huh, what the heck? They have what's called voice ID or voice print or voice DNA. Within like 5 seconds, they understand your whole voice dynamics, and I no longer need a password. And so for the last, say, 3 or 4 years, that was cool. Now I'm scared, right? Because those are the types of things that will allow you to be compromised, right? They were so far ahead, but the bad guys have caught up, and that can now be an attack vector. If you got a call from your boss and they said, hey, I need you to, change the routing number on this account, they went to a new bank. And if it sounded just like your boss, maybe they even throw in a joke or two that only you two know, you'd probably be inclined to feel pressure to just go and do what he asks, right? Those are things we need to start thinking about.
Well, if we did that, that's equal to having a password between you, because the AI shouldn't know the two things that him and I would.
Oh, what if you go through email sometimes? Hey, wife still can't cook? Did you get those cooking lessons yet? Or something like that, right? And all of a sudden he uses it, right? So once again, we're feeding it information that it gets to know us on a more intimate level, and therefore using those things to do bad things.
Establishing something that doesn't go on email, where you can say, hey, if there's a finance transaction being asked, what's the password? Like some kind of phrase that.
There could be something like that, yeah.
Then you are not.
Absolutely. Like everything goes so like high tech. Sometimes going back to like antiquated, audio thing that nobody else knows or whatever, it might be something smart. I don't necessarily have the answer, but I know that as we feed more information into these systems, it can use that information against us. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. There's also deep fakes, right? If it wasn't scary enough, you could be on a Zoom call with somebody who looks just like people in your office, and they could all be just AI-generated bots, having conversations, same patterns. This person always sneezes. That person always forgets to mute, and it's happening right there live in front of you. I'm sorry, but the Canadian over here is like, oh my gosh, I'm about to melt. I'm sorry, man. A lot of bad news. I'm sorry, man. Right, so AI-generated phishing that actually works, right? So we're used to, back in the day, they're using your account is compromised. You're like, haha, I know that's a trick. But what if they say, hey, Jason, saw your recent post about Kaseya 365. Quick question on your upcoming partner event. You're now disarmed. If there's a link in that email, you probably click it with not thinking twice about it, right? So once again, being better understanding, this dynamic and what things that can happen. AI ransomware targeting. So once again, because they're scanning your systems and things of that nature, it can start saying things like, you know what? Let's make sure we disable this person's backups. Let's make sure that we kill this redundancy over here. Let's make sure we do this at the other. So it's able to target you in a smarter way to make sure it gets the guaranteed outcome, right? So if it's ransomware and you're like, haha, I already have backups. No, it knew that already, and it was able to circumvent that. automated social engineering bots. So this right here is, so like you get something from a Teams message from IT, right? Hey, we're doing an inventory check. Something's not showing up on your computer. Can you download this so we can get visibility on your computer? Half the time, people aren't going to check to make sure it came from inside the company, because some of you guys are using Teams with outside parties, right? Your customers, your other school districts, whatever the case may be. And so sometimes those things that are happening where you're compromised in that way. Then you have the situation where data poisoning happens. So we set up AI to be able to do these different checks and make sure that these vulnerabilities don't exist on the network and that these security patches are done, right? But that's based off of information that we give it, right? What if you give AI bad information? Hey, these type of threats are okay, right? And so now as AI is doing its job, it's looking at all these bad stuff and it's saying, oh, that's okay. It said it's okay, right? But that was from a bad person who now is able to get access to your systems and do bad things because we allowed it to skip over those different points that it should have been taken more seriously or course correcting, right? So AI doesn't create new attacks necessarily, but it takes things like phishing and makes it more personalized at scale. Impersonation makes it more indistinguishable from being real. In terms of recon, it's automated and continuous. You can have a bot on your network for months, just listening, hearing, reporting back, sending data. And then social engineering, right? It's persistent and adaptive, right? It's going to have a conversation back with you. And as it gets better and better and it has more information, those conversations are going to seem realer and realer and realer. And so where do you start, right? So I'm gonna quickly just go through this list of things that you can do to help mitigate the risk. Understand that you're a target, whether you're online or offline, it does not matter. Make sure that you have written policies and procedures that are adhered to. Never leave devices unattended. Anybody in here working like a dentist's office or a doctor's office? Those are the worst offenders. When I go in there, the receptionist is always leaving to go talk to the doctor, and I'm looking at the screen full of information right there, right? I can easily put a USB stick in, I can easily go in and do something, right? Always make sure your devices are locked when you're not there, and make sure that they're password protected, right? And make sure you're using some sort of password management system. Anybody here in here using a notebook?
Password management?
Yeah. As he's deleting it over there, he's like, no, right? For password management, all right? So make sure that you're using a system, right? And, do your research, work with DP Solutions to make sure that you're using a good, reputable password manager, right? Because you don't want to pretty much give the keys to the kingdom. And to take it on another note is make sure that you're not using your personal passwords aren't the same as your company passwords. A lot of times you're not taking the same care to protect your home networks, right? And so these bad guys can get into your home networks relatively easily, see the things you're doing, and then they just go replicate what they found over here at your business. So if your password is Spring 1993, right, over here, they'll just go over here and put Spring 1993 in, and now they're in. So make sure that it's totally different. Use multi-factor authentication. I think we're finally all around or come around to the point that it's a necessity. It used to be the most annoying thing in the world. It still is. But I think we all see that it is something that is a non-negotiable at this point. Make sure there's ongoing employee training. Right, a lot of times, the business comes first, the business comes first, right? But you're not taking the time to really think about how one untrained employee can impact the longevity of your business. So people are your greatest threats and risk. So there's somebody in your office like this at least once a month. Like, damn it, I just deleted something. right? Or this could be on a Friday, right? Friday at 4 o'clock is like the #1 time for people to make these types of mistakes where they click the wrong email or something of that nature. And at that point, they're always like stuck with two decisions. Do I close the computer and worry about it on Monday, right? Or do I speak up and say, hey, this just happened to me, right? Unfortunately, most people are saying, we'll deal with this on Monday, right? And those are the things that you don't want to happen, right? We're seeing tons of different types of ways to scam people. During COVID, one of the best, easiest way to get people to click on something was to say, hey, we have an update to your tracking number, right? I was ordering so much things during COVID, I didn't even know like what was coming from where, right? I was just spending money. And then you'll see these tracking numbers, and it's so easy just go and click because you want to know when it's coming, even though you don't remember what it even was. And people were getting fooled with this left, right, and center, right? There's ones where there's the scam where it tells you, hey, we have video of you doing this, right? The people who have, aren't worried because they don't do anything bad on their computer, like, oh, whatever. The people who may have done a site or two that they shouldn't have been on are like, oh no, and they click it, right? They hit them with the panic. So, last couple ones, right? Antivirus and malware protection, right, is a must. Make sure you have a mobile device policy. Any of you guys let your employees like use their own personal cell phone for a company business? But you guys have it all locked down, right? All right.
It's on its way.
DP Solutions, they'll take care of you, all right? Penetration testing, right? That should be done depending on industry. That might be quarterly that you're doing it. It might be twice a year, at worst, once a year. You want to know where your weak points are, and you want to be able to fix it before the bad guys are able to point it out for you. Number 10, business continuity. Make sure that any data that you have has a level of redundancy, right? There's different layers to what that redundancy looks like. There's some solutions that we offer, DP Solutions, which will allow you to have a backup of your computer up and running in like 2-3 minutes. So you get a ransomware hit on your computer, you reach out to them, they can boot up a virtual instance of your computer. That is the ideal way to go, but there's different levels that we can still help you guys with. Stay on top of new tech, laws, regulations, right? You're doing that right now by coming to like this type of event because they're gonna teach you the things that you need to know, right? Hey, what's new on the horizon? For this vertical, this is the new things you have to think about next year. If you don't think about it, it's going to be fines. It's going to, license suspensions, whatever the case may be. Is make sure that you're staying on top of that. And then have an establish an incident response plan or a DR plan. Anybody here have a DR plan currently? After COVID, only 7 people have a. All right, talk to DP Solutions about that as well. The thing is, you want to make sure that you have a plan, but the biggest issue I see with people having plans is they create these beautiful plans, right? It's like the Mona Lisa of plans. And then they say, all right, that's done, let me put it in this drawer. And then 3 years later, there's an incident, you pull it out, and John doesn't even work here anymore, so you can't go to him, right? We don't even use this tool anymore, right? So create these plans, but also make sure that you are going back and working through the plan on a certain cadence. It could be every 6 months, it could be once a year, but that's gonna be important because you wanna be able to be resilient. So, this is one of my favorite quotes of all time. All right, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? You want to make sure you're punching yourself in the mouth before somebody else punches you in your mouth, right? Because you want to understand how you're going to react. You want to understand, what changes you need to make. You need to understand under the full effect of a punch, what would you do? How would you change your decision? And so with that, I really encourage you guys to, identify where you guys are today. And thank you guys a lot. Appreciate it.
Okay, so how can AI help analyze data without jeopardizing data privacy? Good.
I'll jump in here. I'll say just use the right tool. Like using a tool, having the right guardrails around that tool, around that environment, around that data.
specifically who's accessing it, when, from where, have those controls in place. And then from there, you're able to easily, I was giving my Excel example earlier, like that's a real one. I do it daily at least. All specific to customers. I have an agent that can automate that process, but the right controls, right assessment having been done, understanding my weak points, and then having that adapted into the right tool set.
And James, we need the Microsoft 365 Copilot license, the one that's like $30 a person that gives you the work and web feature. Yep. So there's a certain version.
I don't think it's free.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, over the cameras.
But there's a kind of the free or basic version of Copilot, but then there's the 365 that gives you 2 buttons on the top of your screen. One says work, one says web. You need that license to get to even accessing your own internal data.
Both yes and no. So with the free version of Copilot, you can access contextually what's on the screen or in that particular document.
Right.
When you have the paid version, now it can go into your entire environment.
Right.
So not in the singular spreadsheet, but past spreadsheets and infer from all that data. So yes, you can do a lot more with the paid version. At the base level, once your security parameters, and that's really the key to that answer, once the security is set up, even the free version, you can still get a good amount of value. You'll surely want more, right? Microsoft's not foolish. Try this little thing, you're gonna come back for all of it, right? So start with the free by all means, but I'm having the right controls.
When you're setting your client to be reading their like accounting system data, you're putting that into a separate cube or bucket. It's only staying right there, where to do the analysis, you want to pull from your ERP system. They're setting it up in a way that it's only looking at data, it's not going anywhere else.
Right.
And that's part of the configuration that you need to do to set up what they call guardrails. We hear that all the time, setting up guardrails. And it's, you'll say, guardrails are changing every day, right? Because new threats are coming. Was there something there?
Yeah, just kind of a follow-up to your question. You know, as you're using the AI to aggregate large sums of data, how confident are you in the data that comes back? You know, there are times where I use it, and again, I'm novice level at this, but the data that comes back, I find inconsistencies in it, or it spits back something that's wrong. You know, when you're trying to use it as a tool like that, how do you know that what you're getting back is real or is trustworthy?
Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit. And so there definitely is, you know, in just asking questions to it, sometimes you get a response and you fact check it and you're like, we were talking about restaurants earlier, this restaurant isn't even open anymore. It doesn't exist. And so with your data, what is something you can also look at, and especially if you're using Copilot, you can use different AI models. So some are stronger at writing, some are stronger at code, some are stronger at analyzing. So being able to be flexible to use the different types and know sometimes with, let's say it's a massive spreadsheet, using Copilot to analyze it can be really helpful, but you know, even on a 1,000-page document, it still has its limitations with how much data it can ingest. And so you may want to consider potentially other tools to get the answer to the same question. So one we didn't really talk about that gets a little skipped over with AI is business intelligence. So there in Microsoft, there's the tool called Power BI, or Tableau is the other third-party model. And so there definitely is a level of, especially when you start using it, doing your own analysis and then having the agent do the analysis, training it, continuing to correct and say, nope, this isn't what I wanted, this is what I wanted, so it can learn. But for some of those large models, if there's, you know, a constant question, the same question you want to keep asking and getting the same answer to, something like a business intelligence tool may even be the better answer to what you're looking for.
And just to add to that, and the fundamental things you want to be sure you're doing when you're implementing AI is, first, cybersecurity is number one. You have to have your system secure. Number two often is the quality of your data. I mean, if you're looking at 10 years of accounting data, it could be garbage, and so often that's the case. So the cleanliness of the data, if it's not good data, AI only works with what it's got, so.
And maybe a last one on that would be the context or the prompt. So saying, hey, before you give me this answer, go back and revalidate.
That's right.
So I think that's one that I leverage in most of my prompts and most of my agents. It is go and double check. I really appreciate you wanting to help. Eat your little puppy here, but let's go about and do it properly. So go and revalidate. Microsoft actually implemented a new feature called Council, where it actually lets you run both Opus and OpenAI side by side. So you can actually evaluate the outputs. And I even have one, maybe I'll do a research and I'll have it spit out in OpenAI, and I'll put that same output through Opus or Claude afterwards and revalidate. And then always stay in the loop. AI will do 80% of our stuff. Don't let it do 100. Always stay there and be that HI.
Human intelligence.
HI, baby.
So we'll go to Madhu first, and then we'll go to
For Laura, using Power Automate and having it do the computer use, giving access to a password manager and then having it go log into systems. Pros and cons, is that trustworthy? Do you want to give that level of access to everything that you have on LastPass so that it can do it?
I would probably err on the side of caution for that, because when you run, there's a few different ways that you can use. Computer use is a kind of another example of RPA, which is robotic process automation. There's another version of Power Automate called Power Automate Desktop, where you actually stand up a virtual machine and it sits on your computer and you watch it run. And so while those are all in protected networks, same thing as computer use, it's trustworthy because you're inside the Microsoft suite, but you may want to start after the password has been entered, depending on what that feature is. And there are different tools in the Microsoft suite outside of LastPass, like Azure Key Vault, that you can use that helps store your password information where no one's ever really seeing what the actual text is of the password. They're hashing it out and pulling it through different APIs. So that's what I would recommend for passwords.
So those ones that you want Power Automate, you just put them in the key vault there
Mm-hmm.
and keep the rest of it.
Yep.
I think password, like, it's my bad. I don't want to give that to.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep, yeah, I would definitely recommend Azure Key Vault for that.
You had a question.
My question is about like the prompts, because that's where I use AI a lot and have created a lot of great things from it, but I find that it takes me 10 steps to get the right prompt. So how can you, like, where can you go? I have to use AI to get better at AI. Like, how can I train or when you're using the product? Because whatever language I'm speaking is not sometimes. So like 5 times in, I'm like, no, you're still wrong. But I would like to get better at it because I feel like I waste a lot of time with that.
I mean, a trick that I use, can everyone hear me? Is that I will say, AI, I want to accomplish this particular goal. I want you to be this sort of person. This is the output that I'm looking for. This is my goal. Help me write a prompt, facilitate this, and before you go on, ask me any clarifying questions. It'll come back with questions. You'll answer it. Sometimes I'll go off and spend an hour answering those questions in Word or something because they're so involved. Come back. The other trick that Laurel mentioned is in your AI, there's a personalization section. A lot of people don't know about this. It's in your settings. You go to personalization, and there you can give AI a series of instructions. Always answer my questions without any speculation. Be professional. Do this, do that, and you create a personality for AI to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Could you add to that?
Yeah, I have mine keep my answers short because I don't like when it sends me a huge prompt. But yeah, I think, thinking about how much we all used to use Google, maybe still do, being able to Google something and get an answer is also a skill. And so it does take time and practice to get your answers. I think using personalization definitely does help. And a lot of times, asking the AI, like, this is what I'm looking for, how would you word it? And sometimes even just giving it the prompt of, hey, spend a lot of time thinking about this. I don't need this answer right now. I want you to really look through the sources, make sure you respond with where you got this information, because sometimes that's when they'll say, oh, you're right. It doesn't exist. I came up with it. And so forcing it to fact check itself, that can also help you get to your answer a little bit quicker. But it is a lot of patience to practice that skill of what you should put in to get the output.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate.
Deep research, right?
Sorry?
Like, deep research, you have the 2 modes you can use. You have one that immediately gives you something, then deep research that takes spend 20 minutes, does all the work, and gives you a report.
Right.
So those kind of things.
Yep, and I think like just to build on both, so like absolutely, so within Copilot in the paid version, you do have access to agents. There's actually one agent that's called the prompt coach. So that'll actually help you to write out
that's a
your
great tool.
perfect prompt. And then once you do finally get the output you like, you can go into customization or your personalization settings and say,
always reply in this manner. You can also, when you get the right output, say, hey, Copilot, this is great. Give it a name. It loves that, by the way. So mine's Scout. I'm like, hey, Scout, this is great. Commit this to memory. And then it just holds it there. And now anytime I go back, I'm like, I need to do this report. It's like, oh, great. Like this, you got it, Scout. Let's keep going. And yeah, absolutely. So
You have a question?
great ideas.
Yes, hi. I'm wondering about your the business intelligence Copilot because I've used it and I've noticed that it does not always give me back the best answer. I have to constantly keep, feeding it, and it still doesn't give me back the answer I'm looking for. So how is it best to use that? I use Power BI, by the way.
Yeah, so Power BI just got rid of one of our favorite tools that has been out for quite some time, natural language query. And so what you were able to do on the back end is you obviously have all of your data that's supporting these reports, but then you can tag, this column, this field means this. When I say cities, I want the city_1 field to be returned back for me. And so they just deprecated that to our sadness there, but they now are obviously putting Copilot into BI. And so a lot of it is making sure behind the scenes in Power BI, things are named as you would start querying them, because that's where we find things can get lost in what you're trying to pull back. It is a bit newer of the implementation in BI, and so it's something that will definitely take some time, but having it understand, when I say these are the different areas that I want to look for, and training it on your data can help pull out some of those better answers.
One other question. You mentioned Copilot Studio, which I've not really used. So it's a good tool. But is it a free tool or you need a license?
So there is Microsoft Copilot, which is the $30 per user per month, and that's that personal agent where you get the work in the web. And then Copilot Studio is what is called pay-as-you-go licensing. And so one Copilot credit is a cent. And the definition of a Copilot credit can be a bit tricky to define, but you can think of it as a question that you're asking it. So one question is one Copilot credit, 1 cent. And as an organization, there's a lot of guidelines that you can set up to say, this is my cap of money that I want to put into it. And so that way it doesn't, go out of control and spend all of your money as you're querying questions.
Yeah, I'll even add to that within your Copilot, your paid license. So 2 things, just I can't help myself. Yeah. One, there's a Copilot business license. It's $21 now, so it's not the 30 anymore.
Nice.
If you're in the SMB space, under 300 seats, help yourself. So there's a nice discount here for you. So that's one. In that license, it does include Copilot Studio usage. So if you're a licensed user, you have access to Studio, no additional cost needed. And then you can go ahead and you might look at the pay-as-you-go model if you want to publish it outward or share it to agents who don't have the license. But otherwise, it should be free once you have your Copilot seat.
Paul, did you have a question? I saw you raising your hand.
Yeah, I was wondering about context. How much of that default is, how much of that is persistent? So a lot of people don't have file hygiene, and it'll pick up a lot of garbage. Yeah. So does that stay persistent, or how soon does it correct itself?
It's going to be constantly be updated, but this goes back to that readiness. And if you have 5 versions of the same file, well, Copilot will infer and assume it'll pick one of the 5. Think of like an employee handbook. Look, I want the 2026 version, not the 2021. That's a very different world in the last 5 years. So you want to give it as much context as you can. Work IQ helps. It'll generally understand, James is going to want the most recent version of that file, but go back to your prompt, and file hygiene is part of that. Am I ready for AI at an org level? That file hygiene is going to be a really big part of that. It's that garbage in, garbage out.
Yep. You had a question?
Yes, I had a question about Power Automate. And drawing from the point that the thing about automation is that you're trying to reduce human effort. And sometimes what happens is you end up reducing human intelligence, right? And from the example you gave of taking attachments from your email and putting them in your OneDrive, is there any security controls or checks that are done to those files? Because sometimes you can have malicious files in your email that are now automatically in your OneDrive, just waiting to be clicked? And is there any checks that is done for these files to kind of filter out what should be in there and what it removes from those downloads?
Yeah. So for the example that I showed, super basic. It's going to take every attachment, add it to my OneDrive. To your point, not super secure or recommended. And so in the actual action itself, there's a few different ways that you can manage to make sure you're not just grabbing anything a random person has emailed you. And one of those ways is there's a few different conditions that you can add to that trigger to make sure that it is actually pulling secure files. And then also, as we actually connect to Outlook, something to be thinking about, DP can certainly help, those here can certainly help, is making sure that your Outlook is also secure. So it's pre-flagging these emails that you shouldn't be receiving. They're going to your junk, they're being quarantined and hidden from you. So setting up those rules ahead of time, that Power Automate flow won't even trigger if they never end up hitting your inbox. So there's definitely not one singular path to make sure that nothing ever makes it into your SharePoint site that shouldn't. But setting up those different guardrails can help eliminate, most or if not all of those risks.
AI Joe, did you have a question?
Yeah, so I see a lot of users that are treating AI like a tool. Besides training, how do you get people to be more comfortable in asking, not necessarily the right questions, but like how I can make a tool instead of asking what's the answer? Like how do you get more people to get on board with that?
I think that's a culture shift. Like I think that's something we're all starting to realize. It's a lot closer. It was just kind of like this AI thing is coming, but it's something in the very short term. Like I can tell you at Sherweb, we have 2 or 3 people enrolled that are just AI evangelists, and they are going by department, by process, by user. And to your point, not saying, well, here's a tool, go have fun, here's a 1-hour generic training org-wide, but really in sales, well, here are your use cases. And here are the prompts, and here's the outcomes we're driving. I want you to do this. I want you to change your procedures now to incorporate AI, so kind of giving them a safe space, and then following up with top-down approval and even time to build this new craft.
I mean, it really is a management thing, and do you clip training at all in teams?
Not as much for us. So we'll do like more a lot of live stuff.
Yeah, but there's a lot of good free training, and you say, okay, you have to do these training. In fact, there was an article that a lot of business people are being required to do homework for AI to learn it before they come back to work, which some people object to, but it is a cultural training thing.
Question.
Kind of piggyback on the cultural stuff. We're struggling with a cultural shift of responsibility for their data. So, we're trying to figure out how to prevent people using our data on a free chatbot, and it's a struggle to keep, because even if we lock down ChatGPT on business computers, they can stick the data in a thumb drive and download it, put it on to run the same reports. I mean, at what point do you get it?
They can put it in their phone.
Right, or on their phone. But at what point do you say security outweighs productivity?
My favorite thing, doing this is a cause for job termination.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to put a real stick behind that.
But then how do you,
But you
is
won't
there a
know.
trackable system?
How do you know?
So there are tools.
So we have our CISO back there, Ron Connolly, who can talk through it. I'm going to add something that Justin,
Not for that, I had a question when you're done.
but do you want to respond to that question about what is too much security?
Yeah, it's really comes
and how
down
do we
to
protect?
your organization, your framework that you're in, your industries, things like that, if you're regulated and all that. But the most easiest thing to do is have a policy in place, right? Document the policy, AI use policy. That's where you go. Have the client or have the employee sign it. If they violate that, get rid of them, or however you want to do that. It can be that serious.
It's the tracking part of it.
How do you know?
There's tools that are in specifically like in Microsoft, you can turn on auditing, a few other things where it's like, well, we see that ex-employee did this on this day. It's black and white, and the employee has nothing to spend that. Now, I'm not saying go out there and fire all your staff for doing something like that, but you have a policy that says, do not put client information in ChatGPT, paid or free. at all, period. You put generic stuff, do not put a single client information in there. If they do, we have the ability to take disciplinary action. That solves 99% of your problems.
Is it fair to say it's like a lot in the cybersecurity world, even before AI, when it comes to there's not necessarily a perfect way to protect it. It's about what you're willing to accept as risk versus, like you said, productivity, putting those guardrails, the policies in place, assessing, doing all that you can, and then communicating with the staff too. Not necessarily, I mean, I agree with the stick to a certain point, but also about productivity and how it's important as a business and your effectiveness as an employee. Getting them involved that way, they can provide a little bit more positive experience around it and like they're a part of it, rather than saying, you know, don't do this, the first thing we're going to do. I don't disagree with anything that said. This is just like anything before AI. Like, not perfect. Before you could just take a screenshot of your screen on your phone when we were trying to protect the cloud, right? Get those different layers in place to protect yourself as much as you can, understand where those gaps are, and then you can focus on people that are potentially breaking the rules.
If you're a business leader in this room and you haven't gotten in front of your staff yet to let them know what your stance is on AI and that you have a documented policy, you need to do that.
Yeah, I was going to just go back a question or two. It really is about change management and how you, as community leaders, want to move forward with AI. So James was talking about the evangelist going department by department. That's a strategy, right? So what strategy works for your company based on, do you have people who adapt to change fast? Do you have a lot that are slow to adapt? Do you have some that are not going to adapt, right? So what's the strategy that works for you? You might say there's 2 areas that we could benefit within AI. So that's our strategy. We're going to go to those 2 areas first. We're going to define how it's going to roll out and who are going to be our evangelists, and we're going to celebrate the successes, and then we're going to expand it to 4 different departments, right? So what is the strategy that will work best for your organization? I think that's very important to determine that.
Thank you, Dee. Yes, Justin.
I was going to make a comment that Ron made with regards to company policy. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Every organization, if you don't have one, you're late. The good news is you can lean on DP and your partners to help you get one together. But they're personal for you. It's not a one-size-fits-all world. And if you haven't written one, I mean, I'll give you mine. I don't care. Like, find me afterwards. But it gets down to your tolerance for risk management organizationally. And I've written a couple of different organizations, and I like leaning in. I don't like naming tools. I try to avoid it. I'll give a couple of, as a use case, as an example to get people thinking. But if it's more than 2 pages, people aren't going to really read it and understand it, and it becomes useless. If your company's position is no because, that's fine, that fits you. But if you're trying to lean in, you can write it to do so, but you also might want to consider putting together an AI council from different disciplines within your organization that can surface the different needs within the different pockets of your business, from your tech team to your legal to your finance. Like, the great thing about AI is it's sort of like a bit of a choose your own adventure, in that different aspects of your organization are going to have different asks and different needs and be looking at it through a vastly different lens. And when you try to synthesize that into a one-size-fits-all, it gets tricky. So just from my personal 2 cents, don't try to make it so super rigid. Leave it with flexibility, but drive it to have people ask questions to ensure it becomes a collaborative vehicle for you to start moving forward safely. But if you use big words, if you start throwing around terms in there that people don't understand, you're going to lose them.
Let me piggyback on that, on how you frame, how I framed it for people to get used to AI, because my understanding is that eventually, even soon, even job interview is going to be like, what can you do that ChatGPT can? And oh, how can you do that better? And that's going to be how people are going to hire. So what I told my team when I introduced AI and said, I'm going to give everybody an AI tool and give them homework throughout a week or a month span of time. When you do your job, look at the ones that bring you joy. Look at the ones that are tedious, the ones that are like, that you don't want to spend time on. And then we will go through and ask each person, how can we give you back that time? The task that you didn't want to do, that you could spend doing something else you love, then how we'll help you, either through how automate or through AI. So that without them being worried about, oh, I like writing, I want to write, they keep writing. But find the things that you don't want to do, let's use some AI or how automate to help you, so that you get some buy-in that, okay, I can actually get something done here without risking that, oh, I'm going to lose the thing that I want to do all the time.
So that has helped us figure out, like he said, people use it for different things, and they value certain other things. So not having rigid, having a flexible policy. Here's your AI, do what you want, but do get into it. Do understand what works better, what doesn't work. My data analyst used it, she said, I do better work. So she doesn't use it for data analytics, she uses it for other things. So you can keep having AI policy, keeping flexible, and also understanding that there is stigma that you have to get over, but everybody needs to kind of start using it to figure out how they become productive.
Thank you, Jim. Jim, you had a question?
So I may throw a little cold water on AI just because I think from a bigger business picture, there's some questions if it's a bubble or not. How do you make sure that your investment in and whatever with people, with resources is commensurate with where the industry is going to be? Because, you know, we're all in this, everything is great, everything is wonderful. And then you see like NVIDIA and Microsoft and whoever all kind of crashing together being like, I'm going to pay you and you pay you and you pay, you know, who knows?
Yeah, I can talk about that a bit. I do think it's important to be a skeptic of AI. You know, we're talking about you put in a prompt, gives you a great answer, here it is, and you say, that's not right at all. And so as an organization, what we find, because people hear AI, they want to start using it, so they reach out to us. And you know, one of our clients right now, we started an AI advisory with them, and we were like, all right, let's, you know, what can we improve? And as in the business, as we're looking at the things that they're doing, AI was actually not the answer at all to what they needed. What they needed was a database. They needed a system to store all their information that wasn't having, you know, an AI agent read this Excel sheet, but having a place for their team to put it in. Have them have a place in SharePoint or Ignite or any file system on the cloud where they could tag their files so that they could really easily find them. A web page where people can submit, you know, their morning reports of how many people are on a job site. And so when we're thinking about AI, I think a lot of people jump into, you know, a chatbot, an agent, having it automate my screen. But a lot of times what we can also be thinking about is, you know, it may not be an agent that saves us time, but just having a platform and the tools to back us up to maybe get to that AI experience, but just having a strong platform can help support where you want to go, and that may be the AI answer. Even BI, again, so many people say, you know, I'm using AI to answer all these questions, but a report may be able to answer those questions for you. You don't necessarily need to feed into using Claude or ChatGPT for everything. There are a lot of different ways to get you where you need to go.
I'd also add that bubbles always come back, right? People always say something is a bubble. The .com bubble, the real estate bubble, the condos bubble, right? So there are times where, yes, it gets big really fast, and then it has to like scale back, but it always continues to grow and come back. So it's not worth like missing out on getting ahead from now because you're concerned that are we in a bubble or not.
Maybe the last thing I'll add on that is we're not telling anyone to go and dive in head first. It is dip your toes in the water, find a single process, a single quick win as we referred to up here. Start slowly incrementally and slowly scale it out, but don't necessarily feed into the hype. Stay cautious and slowly work your way to offloading all the boring stuff.
James is absolutely right. There's tremendous risk out there. I mean, so many experts say, I don't know whether this is going to be amazing and revolutionize the world or end up something really terrible because it's so volatile. I think that really is a testament to standardizing on the Copilot Microsoft platform, because Microsoft established organization. They do things that last. They keep things going forever. And they finally covered up Windows 10, right?
Yeah, we don't talk about that anymore.
But your concern is very well founded, and getting in gradually is solving a particular business problem.
Yeah. My son Mitchell.
Just to kind of piggyback off that, it is kind of, at least to me, reminiscent of the .com bubble where all these players kind of fill it at once and only kind of the cream rises, a few kind of come out on top, and you know the innovation is there, but not for so many people. Is there a risk as to who you choose, what model that you pick? Because it seems like just on the safe side, you pick like the big players like Microsoft or ChatGPT, Anthropic, like are these smaller players, if you invest your time in training agents in these other platforms and they go away, they go bankrupt, like is that just a waste of time and just stick to the big guys?
I think that's where Microsoft, and I kind of called it on the slide there, it is just the user experience is what Microsoft's banking on, and then insert whichever model survives, let's say over the next 5-10 years here, or proves its value. But that's Microsoft's positioning in this. It is bring one of thousands of models and they're already available. Use what you need to, whatever you believe in, whatever is doing your, checking your box. But yeah, I don't think there's, like everything's going to consolidate. I think there's going to be kind of one LLM when we get to the end of all of it here. Take off my tinfoil hat for a second, but I think it's going there. But for now, it's how do you interact with them?
And it's moving so quick, right? A year and a half ago, it was all about ChatGPT. And then we've seen how quickly things have changed in that course of time. So I don't think any of us really know.
No one knows. No one knows.
But the bubble, even with the bubble burst, AI is not going back. We're gonna have to live.
Correct.
We have to learn to live with AI, version of AI. So regardless of what company, and like I said, if you understand how to use any AI system, that's going to be forever from now on. Unless the EMP hits and we go back to the
Stone Age. Yeah.
So we have 4 more minutes.
Yeah, and this might have to be a longer conversation. So one of the challenges that we face in our organization, we're a small business, 30 employees, we're trying to measure, you mentioned it earlier, and it's a long conversation, so maybe like another breakfast, but morality versus return of investment, right? So we look at us right now and we're like, well, I'm not smart enough to do all this AI myself. Sarah's much smarter than me at it. She can't do it all. She does all this other stuff. So for us to do all the cool things, we have to hire, purchase, implement this army or team of that sort of stuff. Well, there's a cost associated with that. So how do I drive additional revenue with that space without reducing my FTE count?
Yeah.
So we're well, I don't want to speak for me, but me, from a morality standpoint, it's awful. Thank you. It's awful. Yeah, at least I'm not, but you have to adapt to your point. It's not going away. So where's the happy medium between morality, ROI, how you take care of your trusted employees that do it for 30 years?
It's up to us. It's up to us.
It is, but you can't let your business go under either because you have to compete as well.
Yep.
But your unskilled employees, meaning folks that process, push paper, bill, and that sort of stuff, they have families, just like anything along those lines,
There's so many bigger questions,
Yes,
especially
correct. I didn't even bring that up. But listen, people are talking about how cool is this? It's really cool, makes your life easier. You can have this conversation, it takes an hour of your time today, but wow, then they learn you. Boy, that's pretty scary. What if they learn you and then hop somewhere else for another machine and they replicate you? Then there's a whole morality sort of thing that I'm internally struggling with. So I don't know if anybody else is sharing the same thing.
Who can stay for lunch?
Sorry.
Now we're getting deep, and that's really a fair question. I would say the conversations around leadership is really, really important in terms of what you're trying to solve. Obviously, the right people in the right seats, but the people matter side of things are important too in that planning. And again, just because AI is here and you want to use it doesn't mean that you can't properly plan for the future and how you're going to train people. That's what we're doing, right? Like internally, we're asking, we have Cup of Joe sessions, right, where we're asking people where they are and want to go. I would tell you, we have AI Joe right here on our team who started, he's in backups, and now he's leading our AI because he spoke up and said, hey, I like this stuff. So we put him in the military. I want to thank everyone for coming today. The AI. Thank our great panelists. I think it's really great information.